of activities marking President Tinubu's third anniversary in office this June. Now, Governor Sule of Nasarawa State has urged the Nigerian government to tackle corruption if Nigeria intends to grow its infrastructure. Sule made the call at a two-day 2026 infrastructure dialogue held in Abuja.
Chief Executive of
Governor Sule blamed lack of transparency as the bane of infrastructure development in Nigeria.
So there is money. So what is lacking generally is you need to put the structures together on how to assess that money. Because an investor is not looking for money from there, he's looking for an infrastructure. This infrastructure will be in roads, will be power, access to the market, will be water, will be security that they need. But you know, the biggest of them all that they need at the end of the day is the buying in of the community there and the access to the market and return on investment.
A managing partner, Dutch Partners Holding, Onoha Nachi, said there is the need to unlock infrastructure financing and economic development in Nigeria.
There has to be a deliberate way of legislating continuity for critical projects. Once a project passes Federal Executive Council and National Assembly approval, it should be binding across governments. Some countries like South Africa, Africa's Independent Power Producer Program works because it is law, not policy.
What we do is, how can we unlock finance to develop Nigeria? We don't have any other country. This is our country, and we must do everything to change the narrative.
2026 Infrastructure Dialogue has the theme, Building Nigerians' Future, the strategic role of development financing and economic development. Dimas Nanzeng, AIT News, Abuja.
For years, insecurity, kidnappings, and bandit attacks kept many northern communities in fear and forced thousands from their homes. But with intensified military operations across troubled region, some residents say normalcy is gradually returning. At a press conference in Abuja, the Arewa Youth Assembly commended Nigeria's service chiefs for what it described as a major gains in the fight against insurgency, banditry, and other security threats, and noted military operations across the northeast, northwest, north central, and parts of the southeast have weakened criminal networks and restored hope in affected communities.
One must first cast a retrospective glance at the dire security quagmire that plagued the nation prior to this administration. The Assembly reserves special and profound commendation for the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Wahidi Shuaibu. It is on the unforgiving terrain of the front lines that the battle for Nigeria's soul is ultimately decided. And it is here that the Chief of Army Staff has urged his legacy as a soldier's soldier.
The Assembly said recent offenses have led to the neutralization of several notorious commanders and disrupted the activities of armed groups terrorizing local communities. It also praised the collaboration between the Minister of Defense and Chief of Defense Staff.
Before election, there will be peace in northern Nigeria. But when it comes to election time, you find out that the insecurity will come to rise. So we believe some unscrupulous elements and our politicians are using that as tools to gain votes and to win election. But we want to use this opportunity to commend the NSA, Malam Nuhu Ribado, and the service chiefs.
We urge on all Nigerians to support our military systems to be able to gear up their morale to win against insecurity.
The group added that rehabilitation and community support programs are also helping to reduce recruitment into criminal groups. The Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, Zubaida Umar, has urged state governments across the country to take proactive steps to prevent and mitigate flooding following predictions that more than 30 states may experience severe flooding during the 2026 rainy season. Zubaida Umar made the appeal during a courtesy visit to the governor of Adamawa State, Amadou Fintiri, in Yola, as part of activities marking the stakeholders' engagement and a flag-off of the 2026 National Preparedness and Response Campaign on flood, disaster and related hazards. She identified key measures expected from state governments to include the reintroduction and enforcement of monthly environmental sanitation exercises, regular clearing of drainages and waterways, strengthening state emergency management agencies, and ensuring the inauguration and effective cooperation of local emergency management committees at the grassroots levels. The NEMA Director General added that through NEMA's flood early warning systems, the agency has identified flood risk profiles and produced vulnerability maps for at-risk communities across the country to support targeted disaster risk reduction planning by federal, state, and local governments. Zubaida Umar also called on traditional institutions, religious organizations, women and youth groups, the media, and the private sector to support NEMA in amplifying early warning messages and promoting community preparedness. Now, the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation has denied approving or communicating approval of a 40% peculiar allowance for federal civil servants. In a statement issued on Tuesday, the office said it played no role in approving or conveying the allowance to the Joint National Public Service Negotiating Council or any labor union. According to the office, only the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission is authorized to issue circulars relating to such allowances, noting that the circular being referred was issued by the Commission on April 23, 2026. The office further explained that the meeting held on May 12 was merely an intervention to facilitate dialogue between organized labor and the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission in order to prevent a breakdown in labor relations. It also recalled that on April 24th, the head of service announced a broader welfare package approved by the federal government. The package includes payment of full-duty toll allowance for approved training programs, an upward review of peculiar allowance across grade levels, as well as increases in ESTA code and book allowances. In addition, government approved a 10 billion naira housing loan scheme for public servants. The office reaffirmed its commitment to maintaining industrial harmony through continuous engagement with stakeholders in the federal civil service. And this is Abuja Report on AIT, reaching you live from our Kwadima studios in Asokoro. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Federal government denies approval of 40% peculiar allowance for civil servants. Imminent flooding across the nation as National Emergency Management Agency calls for proactive steps to prevent colossal damage. And former acting Accountant General of the Federation, Chukwuyere Nwabuoku, forfeits 1.9 billion naira assets to federal government. Welcome back. The former Minister of Aviation and Chancellor of the Athena Center for Policy and Leadership, Osita Chidoka, has called on Nigeria's pharmaceutical manufacturers to support the federal government's drive towards universal health coverage by embracing global quality standards and ending what it describes as an alibi culture of excuses. Speaking at the 29th National Conference of the Association of Industrial Pharmacists of Nigeria in Ilorin, Kwara State, Chidoka said Nigeria's health, security, and industrial growth will depend on stronger collaboration among government, regulators, and professional bodies.
Delivering the keynote address at the conference, Chidioka warned that the high cost of medicines and healthcare products remains a major challenge for Nigerians. He attributed the situation to weak purchasing power and the pharmaceutical industry's heavy dependence on imported active pharmaceutical ingredients, also known as APIs.
Tariffs on imported drugs, on certain imported drugs that have local production capability, has to go higher to equalize the dumping that is going on in Nigeria, where imported items are cheaper than the locally produced ones.
The former minister urged pharmaceutical companies to view regulatory compliance as a strategic tool for global competitiveness rather than a burden. The conference also emphasized the need for accountability, innovation, and performance-driven systems within the pharmaceutical industry, with speakers stressing the importance of strengthening local manufacturing capacity to reduce costs and improve access to affordable medicines in line with the federal government's universal health coverage agenda.
This trade is not just about information. It is not just about attending another program or filling another seat. It is about capacity building. Because capacity is what turns potential into performance. It is what transforms effort into impact. And it is what ensures that progress is not temporal, but sustainable.
The event attracted key stakeholders from the pharmaceutical sector alongside government officials, highlighting growing collaboration between public institutions and professional bodies aimed at strengthening Nigeria's healthcare system and achieving sustainable universal health goals.
Now, indigenous contractors of Nigeria have again demand for the payment of completed projects from the federal government running into trillions of naira. The contractors, during a peaceful protest at the Federal Ministry of Finance in Abuja, said the federal government's debt to indigenous firms are crippling businesses and livelihood nationwide amid the high cost of living.
Has been lingering for the past 2 years, since 2024. After most of us finished our project, collected loans from various financial institutions and all that, Since then, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been turning us around. Paying us becomes a problem. Most of the projects they commissioned 2024, even 2025, are all on credit. They will collect loan, including when Doris was here. They will take loan from foreign organizations. They will not pay contractors. And the last protest we had was in the National Assembly, when they gave them when they collected a loan of about 1.6 or 1.3 trillion to pay contractors, which they did not do.
The contractors said the prolonged non-payment is taking a serious toll on members, with many reportedly losing property and struggling to support their families and businesses, warning that the association would determine its next line of action after a scheduled meeting with ministry officials, insisting that indigenous contractors can no longer continue to bear the burden of delayed government payments.
Most of our properties, we've lost most of our properties. Those banks, private loaners that gave us funds, assist our properties, debt, we lost a lot of lives. By tomorrow, some of our members will be going to divide ourselves. So we'll be going to Lagos, so we're going to Osun, so we're going to Anambra, Imo State, and so many other states for burial, as against on Friday.
Our take is not that so large, but the little it is a mighty ocean. Number one, this government are continued turning us left and right. We want to say that the present Minister of Finance said is not like previous ones. But right now we are seeing the track that is also behaving that way. And we will not relent. We will continue to demand for our right, our money.
The group has staged several protests in Abuja in recent months over the issue and is accusing the government of failing to clear verified debts for completed projects. As of the time of filing this report, the Federal Ministry of Finance had not issued an official response to the protest. Now, despite the establishment of several laws, policies and institutions to combat corruption and money laundering, gaps still exist in enforcement, interagency donation and citizen engagement. This is according to a report by the Africa Network for Environment and Economic Justice, which assessed Nigeria's legal and institutional framework for addressing illicit financial flows. The executive director of ANAJ, David Ugolo, said illicit financial flows continue to undermine governance systems, weaken public trust, and limit government's capacity to mobilize domestic resources needed for social protection and poverty reduction.
This report is not intended to be merely another academic document placed on shelves. Rather, it is designed as a practical resource to support evidence-based advocacy, strengthen civil society and media engagement, and contribute constructively to ongoing government efforts aimed at curbing illicit financial flows in Nigeria.
An order of the final confiscation and forfeiture of multi-billion naira assets linked to former acting Accountant General of the Federation, Chukwuyere Nwabuoku, has been made by a federal high court in Abuja following his conviction on money laundering charges on 23rd of March 2026. Delivering the ruling on Wednesday, Justice James Omotosho granted the application filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, holding that the assets were proven to be proceeds of unlawful activities. The judge held that under established legal principles, forfeiture is a direct consequence of conviction in financial crime cases, noting that allowing a convicted person to retain assets acquired through criminal conduct would defeat the purpose of justice. Justice Omotosho dismissed objections by Nwabuoku's counsel that the pending appeal should halt the forfeiture proceedings, stressing that the filing of an appeal does not invalidate the court's authority to enforce orders that forms part of its judgment. He further rejected claims that the application constituted an abuse of court process, stating that no evidence was presented to show that a similar forfeiture request involving the same assets was already before another court. The forfeited assets include substantial sums held in multiple bank accounts, a 5-bedroom duplex located in Kubwana, Abuja, and extensive stock investments across major Nigerian companies collectively valued at over 1.9 billion naira. The court noted that some of the recovered funds had already been refunded, while the Abuja property was voluntarily surrendered by the convict as restitution. The ruling follows Nwabuoku's earlier conviction on a 9-count money laundering charge for which he was sentenced to 72 years imprisonment. However, the sentences are to run concurrently, meaning the convict will serve a term of 8 years. Now, as millions of Nigeria continues to grapple with rising poverty, limited healthcare access, and worsening social conditions, humanitarian organizations are increasingly stepping in to bridge the gap left by weak public services. At the 2026 Rotary International Conference in Abuja, leaders and development advocates unveiled plans aimed at expanding life-changing interventions in healthcare, education, clean water supply, and youth empowerment, with peculiar attention on vulnerability and low-income communities across northern Nigeria.
The 2026 Annual District Conference of Rotary International Districts 9127 in Abuja brought together more than 1,000 Rotarians, community leaders, professionals, youth groups, and development partners to discuss how humanitarian service can improve lives across northern Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory.
It reminds us that when we unite, we multiply impact. When we build friendships, we strengthen peace. When we celebrate service, we inspire others to serve. Over the last 3 days, we shall share ideas, celebrate achievements, strengthen friendships, honor service, and dream together about the future of District 9127.
The conference focused strongly on healthcare, education, peace building, youth empowerment, and community development at a time many Nigerians are battling economic hardship, insecurity, and rising healthcare costs.
Our administration remains committed to improving access to quality healthcare, expanding educational opportunities, empowering women and youth, strengthening agriculture, and promoting peaceful coexistence across our diverse communities.
A major highlight of the conference was the unveiling of the Rotary Leadership Talks, a TED-style platform designed to encourage innovative thinking, leadership, and community-driven solutions to Nigeria's development challenges. Organizers said the initiative would amplify young voices and encourage practical ideas capable of addressing unemployment, poor education, and insecurity.
And that's up your report on AIT. I am Oyebimpe Wealth. Thanks for staying with us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, AIT_live, and AIT Livestream 1 on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy. And our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go. Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, AIT_live, and AIT Livestream 1 on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Hello there. Welcome to tonight's edition of Democracy Today on AIT. I am Enemaku Ojochegbe. The process of electing party standard bearers for the 2027 polls in Nigeria is on. Before any candidate can face the wider electorate, they must first survive this internal crucible. Make no mistakes, the party's primaries are the election before the election. It is where internal factions collide, platforms are tested, and political destinies are made or broken. Now, the political stakes are unusually higher in the primaries, but incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, until a few days ago, appears lucky in his re-election bid. He holds the backing of all APC governors, zonal and state chapters, and almost all critical stakeholders as the ruling APC faces defining internal battle. Tinubu is seeking a second-term endorsement with a vast political machinery and acclaimed visible credentials as a tested and entrenched political figure. Yet, his calculations for a second term at Aso Rock Presidential Villa is being disrupted by a lone challenger within the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. Edo State-born politician and businessman Stanley Osifo has officially entered the race. He has paid the 100 million naira rule book fee to enter the race. Osifo is challenging APC's established order. It is a direct, unexpected primary challenge for the president, which will compel the APC to hold direct presidential primary election. Now, with the entry of Osifo into the race, the APC's presidential ticket may no longer be a coronation ceremony. For Osifo, this is the only path to the ballot. For President Tinubu, it is the first test of his grip on power. At the same time, tongues are wagging. Is this a genuine electoral battle or a calculated political stunt aimed at, giving democratic approval to the unending presidential primary? But Osifo Stanley explicitly dismisses talks making the rounds that he is simply a sponsored political force. He is insisting that the power of incumbency will not stop his ambition. He launched his campaign under the theme Metamorphosis 2027, running on two core-pronged platforms targeting fiscal discipline and strict security. But here is a pertinent question. Is this critical election before the election, can a lesser-known lone challenger realistically crack Tinubu's establishment endorsement for the APC's presidential ticket? My guest tonight is the man who emerged as a lone challenger who is disrupting the narrative of a consensus presidential ticket within the ruling APC. He's an ambitious APC chieftain who hails from Edo State, South Nigeria. Now, by putting down 100 million naira to pick up the presidential expression of interest in nomination forms, he is forcing an internal democratic contest which many thought was a walkover. Stanley Osifo will join me live on Democracy Today tonight. Welcome to Democracy Today. The presidential aspirant Stanley Osifo will be joining me, as I mentioned. But before tonight's conversation, we'll be serving you quickly political updates. All right, the pre-party primary activities are on. In the APC, as we speak, severe anxiety is gripping party stalwarts as the leadership is yet to make public the highly anticipated aspirant screening results, leaving the political fates of key players hanging in the balance. But President Tinubu is lucky. He may enjoy a waiver based on his previous clearance. Reports from the opposition camp say former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Governor Rotimi Amechi have officially purchased 90 million naira worth of nomination forms, that is, for the presidential primaries, the ADC signaling a fierce contest for the sole presidential ticket. On Thursday, Atiku Abubakar returned his nomination form, signaling his readiness for the ADC's intra-party primary. Meanwhile, keeping his eyes on governance, President Tinubu is currently in Kigali, Rwanda, attending the African Chief CEOs Forum. While on an official trip outside the shores of Nigeria, the APC's National Working Committee announced that the May 23, 2026 primary date remains unchanged, even though the screening reports remain tightly on the wraps. Now, it is perhaps no news that the People's Democratic Party, the PDP's fierce leadership battle has escalated into distinct factions running entirely parallel structures. On Thursday, the Nyesom Wike-backed PDP leadership petitioned the police and the DSS to arrest Senator Adolfo Wabara and Kabiru Turaki for alleged impersonation of party leadership. In a related development, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State on Thursday forged an alliance with Allied People's Movement, the APM. The coalition held a unity rally at the Mapo Hall in Ibadan, where Makinde declared his 2027 presidential ambition.
The Democratic Party and the Allied People's Movement. This handshake will allow us field candidates at all levels. We will field candidates from top to bottom. We will field candidates from presidency to state assembly and everything in between. For today, I, Olusegun Abiodun Makinde, FNSC, announce my candidacy for the position of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
If you're just tuning in, this is Democracy Today on AIT. Don't forget, you can follow us on all social media handles and, of course, drop your comments and questions and, of course, suggestions there. I'll be back in just a moment.
In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the President.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
For staying with us, this is Democracy Today on AIT. APC's presidential primaries is a David versus Goliath battle on May 23, as it appears. That's what we're discussing tonight. But in the meantime, let's hear what the reactions of the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike is regarding, the leadership issues within the APC.
We are busy. People are busy doing carrying their screening. And so it's the imagination of Seyi Makinde. And that is now confirmed what we have told Nigerians. After the misinterpretation of his judgment, it has come clear to every Nigerian that these guys are very, very fraudulent. If for Nigerians to know, to see it by themselves, PDP has presented a position and would present potential candidate, and watch out who will be submitted to INEC and see where there's anything called APM, PDP, APM. So please, please, please. We said it, and we know Bala has gone to APM. Bala has never said anything called PDP, APM. Instead of him to come out to say he has joined the APM, maybe those of his supporters, if they ever remain in PDP in Ibadan, so we may be taking them along. That's what he's calling a PDP, APM alliance.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. This month of May, the conversations that matter most are stepping.
People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics, and Power with Imoni Amarere.
Will low-performing agencies be held to account? Or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
Information.
Education.
Entertainment. It's more than a cliche. It's a way of life.
It's our way of life.
On Kakaki, the African Voice.
On 3, 2, 1, your life.
Talking to the people that matter.
On the issues that matter.
Keeping you up to speed on what you need to know and how you need to know.
That's Kakaki, the African Voice.
Monday through to Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on your channel of choice, African Independent Television.
Kakaki, the African Voice.
The more you look,
the more you see.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. This month of May, the conversations that matter most are STEM.
Gender Agenda is where policy meets people. It's a bold policy literacy platform bridging the gap between decision makers and women across every sector. From parliament to politics, from leadership to governance, from peace to economy, development, human rights, from Nigeria to the rest of Africa, Gender Agenda amplifies voices too often excluded, ensuring every voice counts. Through compelling storytelling, social impact dialogue, thought-provoking documentaries, town halls that lean on data and research, we raise the bar. Gender Agenda, every Friday, 4:30 p.m. on AIT and on AIT's YouTube channel live.
My name is Adora Sidney Jack, and this is Gender Agenda.
Gender Agenda. Women rising.
Many thanks for staying with us. This is Democracy Today on AIT. We're discussing the APC's presidential primaries. It's going to hold on May 23. The day's moving fast towards that day, and of course, the time is ticking. Well, with me in the studio, I have the presidential aspirant who is challenging the incumbent president on the platform of the same ruling APC. I'm talking about Stanley Osifo. Thanks for joining the program tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get right into it straight away. Is it really possible for a relatively unknown presidential aspirant to smash through President Tinubu's, fortresses of endorsements, political allies, caucuses within the party, and all of that to defeat him and clinch the ticket for the presidency in 2027?
Okay, thank you for your question. I think I will start that I'm not new in the system. Let me start with that. It's not the first time I'm coming out to run for the office of the president. in 2018, 2019 political processes. I was in the PDP then. I came out with other aspirants. Even in 2022, 23, I came out also, but I had to withdraw for the president because most of us from my state and other elders spoke with me, and I started to say, okay, I will support him, and I did everything to support the current president. So coming out now is not something new. Maybe because I'm not one of those politicians that is used to noise making or making trouble. I think you get known more in Nigeria when you make trouble in politics. So I'm not new to the system. I've been within the system for a very long time. Talking about the president, we are one party. I think you should note that first and foremost. And as a party member, I came out to vie for the position of the president. The reason is very simple. It's not that we have any internal issues or internal scope within our party. Our party is okay. I felt that there are areas that we really have to work on, which I have spoken about at different fora. So that is the driving force, and that's the reason why I am out for the contest for the office of the president. You talked about other things about endorsements by political bigwigs and everything.
Absolutely.
Yes. It is good to be endorsed. There's nothing wrong about that. I'm not against anyone being endorsed, and it doesn't matter exactly who endorses and who doesn't endorse. And for myself, I would say I also have endorsement, maybe because I've not brought it out for people to see. But endorsement really is not what we should look at. I think, like I always say, let us work for the good of Nigeria.
In other words, that doesn't intimidate you by any chance?
If there was intimidation, I'm sure I would not even step out to say I want to run for the office. For someone that wants to run for the office of the president, you know the way Nigeria is. It's the biggest black nation in the world. The population is huge, the potentials are very humongous. You have intelligent people everywhere. So for you to say you want to come out, you're not coming out to play. Being the president of a nation as big as Nigeria is not a joke. So you must be prepared to say you have the wherewithal to undo the office of the president, and also to look at issues and get solutions to them.
Solutions. That brings me to, just cropped up a question in my mind. What specific gaps or lapses did you identify in the current government of Bola Tinubu that makes you want to step in and, of course, bring about a change or a difference in governance?
I would say right now he's doing well because irrespective of what anybody thinks, whoever is in the saddle and is putting his time and efforts into making sure that things work the way he wants is doing his best. I believe there are areas, like I've always mentioned, that we still need to look at. The other time I mentioned the issue of power. I think he has taken a cue. He has taken a decision by appointing a new minister now. He not only stopped there, he also did a very wonderful work by getting a task force to ensure that whatever it is that needs to be done within that sector is done. I believe that power is very, very critical to our national development across board. So if the issue of power is addressed, I believe we'll be in a better place to talk about great economic growth and improvements and every other thing that we want to work on.
The APC is your party.
Yes.
And, well, I'm not surprised you are speaking well of your party, but if the president is doing well, why would you want to take the ticket from him, take the office from him, rather?
Like I said, anyone that is working is doing well. I've just mentioned to you areas that I felt and I see we could improve upon. I just talked about power. In the agricultural sector, I also want to look at post-harvest issues, storage and storage facilities for preservation to reduce a lot of wastages that we have in that area. The one other thing I really think about is industrialization, because in Nigeria, according to statistics from the National Bureau of Statistics, we have about over 62% of Nigerians are living in and poverty, the rate. And we know there are low levels in terms of unemployment. So I think there should be an aggregate between the levels of what we get and then the levels of the poverty we have to see how we can reduce and work to ensure that the level is drastically reduced.
Rather than, join in the race to try to take power from the incumbent president, since he's your leader, he's your party, have you, by any chance, tried to, interface with the president, seek an audience with him, and offer, some sort of professional advice? He's your leader now, and, perhaps there might be some sort of, intercourse of ideas that could better, pave way for country's leadership.
Yeah, when you talk about intercourse of ideas, is a good way to go. I believe there are ways you approach things, and then there are processes to it too. So I believe that with what we are doing right now, the processes have begun, and we are in one party. If at the end of the day he emerges as the victor, or I emerge as the victor, whatever the case is, we are still going to work together. We're still going to work together.
I'm sure you must have heard the widely held views across the country since your emergence, that your emergence into the race is, by merely engaging in publicity stunt, by, committing your own hard-earned money, 100 billion naira to purchase, the forms. Is your ambition really a publicity stunt, or is it better still create the illusion of internal democracy within the APC, just as it's being alleged in so many quarters across the country right now?
There's nothing about publicity stunt. If that is strange, though.
Oh, that's the general notion.
It's strange for you to tell a man that right from his young adult age, I've seen Nigerians, and he has the passion to see that things work well. A man that I've traveled, seen other spaces around the world, and he believes that his country has the potential to even do better than those parts of the world. He has not come out for the very first time to say he wants to run for the office of the president. This is about the third time, even though the second time he had to still withdraw for the current president. So for you to say you're doing things one, twice, and the third time, I don't think you should call that person a joke or think that the person is joking.
Okay. If you, that means you want the electorate in Nigeria to believe that your campaign and your ambition is self-funded. If that is the case, do you think you have the muscle, the balls to match the caliber of person that President Tinubu is? Outside of the presidency, he has been governor, he has been senator, he has been a leader in the APC, in the AC, in the ACN. Do you think you have what it takes financially to begin with to match his capacity to run for this office?
I think you are looking at his past offices, right? We should also look at other leaders of the world that have become presidents, not even aspiring presidents. An example is the current president of the United States of America, Donald Trump. He was never
a big business mogul.
But you're just making that comparison of office held before. That's why I'm bringing in
I also mentioned financial strength.
When we talk about financial strength, what do you mean? It's subjective. Depends on what you're referring to.
Well, Tinubu has been in office before. He's been a senator. He's a
that's not financial strength.
All right. So, back to my question: do you have what it takes to match what he's got?
I think I have more than what it takes.
Interesting. Tell me.
Ask what exactly you want me to tell you.
The financial strength, the connects.
When you say financial strength,
spread, connects to begin with.
When you talk about
spread across sectors, caucuses, across the party, the ruling APC. Remember, you were not a foundational member of the APC. You were in PDP before, where you ran for president before. Quite impressive, though.
Yes.
So, how would you match such a man? He's in power now. When he was not the president, he controlled the party largely. Now he's in power. I mean, the power of incumbency will also play a huge role right there.
I hear all this all the time.
Beautiful. So.
Yes, I hear all this all the time. When you want to do something If you have your mind set on it, you don't look at obstacles, you don't look at threats, you don't look at anything that would intimidate you, so long as you know that what you're going for and what you have set out to do is right. So talking about finance or financial muscle, what we actually need are the electorates. Within the party right now, we are having a primary that is going to come up on May 23rd.
Absolutely.
So we are not looking at financial muscle, we are looking at our party members, APC card-carrying party members that will come out to vote for the two aspirants right now, Osifo Stanley and His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. We are the only two that will be voted for. So the issue about who comes out victorious is dependent not on financial muscle, not on endorsements, not on cabals, not on any other thing, but it is dependent on the members of the All Progressives Congress. And most of the members I'm talking about right now includes both the one you call the cabal, the one you call the big wigs and everything, including the one that are the lower rungs of the ladder in terms of party.
What's the relationship like with these, big wigs in the party, that some of them that you mentioned? Because as I mentioned earlier, you see, the time in the party and relationships within the party plays a huge role. Remember that your party, the APC, has welcomed, a huge influx of the campees and all of that. And there's some sort of clash of interest regarding who should get what and how to reconcile those who are aggrieved foundational members and those coming in now. Judging from the time you joined the party and now, what's your relationship? How strong is it with leaders of the party and high-profile movers and shakers of the party to win their trust? Remember, this is primaries. This is where the election before the election is decided.
You're right. We talk about relationship. I'm a grassroots politician that also moved up with the ladder to the top levels. So at the lower rung from the unit to the world level, I am very active. At the local government level in my state, I'm active. State too, I do my best. The last election that we had, the national election, I brought in the president. I made my contribution. So when you talk about party affairs, I'm grounded in that area. Then you talked about the big wigs in the party. I am a member of the party and I am relating with everybody. So whoever I relate with, whether it's a big wig or whatever it is that we want to classify them, I see myself as a member of the party, and whoever I relate with, I relate with them as members of the party. All right. That's my relation with everybody in the party.
You mentioned grassroots, and I know that grassroots politics is also very important to the people because, local council is the one that's closest to the people. How is your relationship with grassroots, citizens and residents of Edo State where you come from? But just hold on to that thought. We'll take a break now. When we come back, my guest will still be in the studio. Don't go away.
For a bold new chapter in political discourse, this month of May, the conversations that matter most are...
Thanks for staying with us. If you're just tuning in, I'm afraid you've missed quite some, but you're welcome. This is Democracy Today on AIT. My guest is the presidential aspirant on the platform of the ruling APC, and he's going to contest against incumbent President Bola Tinubu on May 23 for the primaries. Stanley Osifo, still in the building. Thank you for staying with us. I was asking before we went on that break, what is it like in terms of your connection, your relationship with grassroots politicians, citizens and residents in Edo State where you come from?
I would say I have a very good relationship with the grassroots. I think the grassroots, when you talk about grassroots, you have to start with the units, even though it's not really in our constitution. We have the world level and we have the local government level to the state. Before I started, went to my state to meet with leaders in my state, including my ward chairman, the local government chairman. I had interactions with them about what I wanted to do. So it's not something that they are not aware of or something I'm doing without consultation. Even leaders in my state also, a former deputy governor, I had a meeting with him, my senatorial leader. He's fully aware of everything. I think at the local level, I do my best.
All right.
Yes.
In Nigerian politics, governors are really very powerful. Good enough you mentioned the former deputy governor right now and all of that. And I also know that you've tried to relate with your past governors and even the present governor of your state. Now, you know that governors are powerful. They pull a lot of strings in Nigerian politics. Apart from those who have just joined the APC from PDP and other political parties, you know, many of them have actually endorsed President Tinubu for a second term. And some of them have even suggested that there should be a waiver for him. That is going to give him, you know, a heads up. How about you? How many governors have endorsed you? Or how many of them do you have a relationship with, you know, in order to boost your chances to some extent?
We are not talking about situations of governors endorsing and not endorsing. What we are talking about right now is the party. Governors are members of the party. No matter how powerful you are a member of the party, irrespective of the position you occupy. Even His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, is a member of the party. He is the president of the country. So I don't think the issue of powerful and not powerful is what we practice in our party.
It's not about what we practice. I'm talking about, you know, what you don't think you need their backing, their support financially and otherwise, because remember, no matter how financially, you know, debt a politician is, he still needs donations and what.
Definitely, you need support from everyone that can support you in politics.
Is Governor Okebelo behind you in this race, or is behind President Tinubu? On whose side is your governor?
That is not, I can't decide for him. I can't decide for him, really. I think he's a man and he's a politician. I know I had well, it's not something I'm supposed to discuss.
Oh, all right. I will
just leave him out of our conversation right now, you know, so that everyone will be okay.
Okay, that's like saying, talking about the support base by governor. Remember, there are 32 governors who, you know, are in the fold of the APC. Are you saying all of them, none of them is behind you? They're all rallying behind the president and not you?
Let me tell you something about politics. You know, sometimes people just speak and they think that they have people behind them. I'll give you a very clear example. Let me use the PDP convention, the last one held.
Okay.
Between
the one in Ibadan or the one in Abuja?
I'm talking about their own last presidential primaries, okay, where they were all focusing on one particular individual. But on the ground of that particular primary, you saw what happened. There was a complete twist that night or that evening, where what nobody never thought was going to happen happened.
Are you?
So anything.
Okay, so are you hopeful for such a twist this time?
No, what I'm trying to let you know is that when you feel that you have backers or you have people that actually support you, something can happen at the 9th hour or the 11th hour that will kind of throw you off your feet. Do you understand?
Right. Absolutely.
And so whether you have the governors behind you or you don't have the governors behind you is important, and is also something you should also look at in a different perspective to see if anything could happen.
You launched, for your campaign, you launched, you know, a blueprint that you named Metamorphoses 2027. And, you know, you talked about, you mentioned implementing, you know, new reforms in terms of energy generation, that's talking about power. Apart from those, what other, you know, reform will you be implementing?
If you looked at my documents, my manifesto that I produced, I'm more concerned about two things, and that's the economy and the issue of security. Those are two things I believe that if we are able to actually tackle, we will be better as a nation. So in between them, I have other pillars, what I call the fundamental pillars of metamorphosis. There are about 14 of them.
Okay.
And they have to do with sectors already that we know about, but we are looking at how we can bring a different approach.
All right.
And also, I'm also looking at how we can also enhance, because the world right now is more about technology.
Okay.
You know, we talk about artificial intelligence, so many other things, robotics and everything. And I strongly believe that Nigeria have a lot of people that could get into this. So I have this idea of setting up a town or a city where we can have like what we have in America,
like the Silicon
like
Valley.
the Silicon Valley, yes.
All right.
So we can have something like that, and our techpreneurs and other people that are within the value chain can actually bring in.
In your campaign in the 2019 election where you contested under the platform, the PDP back then, you talked about creating wealth and then, of course, empowering young people and all of that. This time around, there's more issues on ground that is, that clearly plaguing the country. Youth unemployment is higher now, poverty has increased, insecurity has worsened and all of that. So does that bother you to sort of expand beyond what you have in your manifesto right now? Does that bother you or spur you to expand it beyond where it is?
I think what you just mentioned are all encapsulated in my manifesto, because I talked about the fight against poverty, hunger, and high cost of living. And when you want to fight poverty, you don't sit down. You have to think around what you can do to ensure that the issue of poverty is addressed. And the one way you can address poverty is creation of jobs, creation of employment. So I'm looking at creating hubs within the states and then the Federal Capital Territory, hubs for industries, or what you can call clusters of industries, where you have specialization of a particular environment, what is available in this place, what is that we can really deal with to bring in people to work, create industries and everything. So, in Nigeria, we have different states, and each state have an area that they are very good at, particularly when you look at the natural resources that exist within them. So these are the things I want to look at for us to be able to create that synergy between jobs and also reducing the rate of poverty. Another thing I also thought about was for us to have models, because I've looked at models in some countries where you have free trade zones where you can actually bring in investments. People come in, they invest, set up industries, get raw materials within the system here. Then the one that I cannot get here can be brought in, but let us see how those people come in, produce, and create employment. I'm looking at the value chain of such industries, looking at the value chain of such employment that can boost our economy and also raise our per capita income and reduce to a large extent the level of poverty we are currently facing in Nigeria.
President Tinubu is currently, engaging in reforms that he says will transform the economy of this country from where it is now to $1 trillion economy. And that's one of the pillars on which he travels to many of these countries to, as he puts it, sell Nigeria, to market Nigeria in order to bring in investors and all of that. Are you saying what you have, presents a much brighter and, a more promising future for the country?
I think
your leader, your party.
Yeah, the president is doing his best, but for me, I believe maybe the areas that we need to look at, what I'm coming up with or the ideas I'm coming up with is sort of new, that can be added to what is on ground right now, because I've talked about industrialization. That is a very key area that I believe that Nigeria can grow its economy. Then,
okay, just finish that.
Then you talked about the foreign direct investments. We can actually do a lot, because I think there was one forum I was, and I told somebody that if I have $1 billion, for example, I want to invest, and then as a nation, we are taking taxes of about 7.5% for VAT, maximum 30% for complete income tax.
Let me ask you this now, and it's going to be a bit personal. Vote for 23 elections.
Openly out. People use the word challenge all the time.
But that's what it is.
That is, no, that's the word I always, sometimes when I see challenge, you see, this is politics, and this is about development. When you talk about development, there are different approaches. Sometimes there are models that have been established. Sometimes people refer to some models and hear models there. But one thing we all do not realize most times is that those models were created by someone.
Right.
Someone sat down and decided to say, okay, let me look at this thing or look at this area or what is going on and come up with something different. If not for people that thought out of the box, I'm sure today we'll not be talking about the internet or talking about AI or talking about Meta and other companies. Someone sat down and thought out of the box. He left the normal way of people doing things and decided to say, okay, I can do something different.
Okay.
I want to create a solution to a particular problem. And then when that came up, the world embraced it. Today, they are a multi-billion-dollar company.
Right.
So we want to also look at those kind of things in Nigeria.
All right.
You understand?
Sorry, I'm trying to manage the time that we have.
All right.
Let me ask you this now. You see, your party's national chairman, Professor Nentawe Yewada, he's a man who has repeatedly, shown the world that he values party cohesion, and as such, it must be upheld at all costs. If that is the case, under what condition would you be willing to withdraw and step aside for President Tinubu during the primaries? If party cohesion must be upheld, just as the national chairman always tells all of you party members.
Our national man does his best. I think even yesterday did one about people trying to cause trouble as a result of the screen that happened, and then the result has been, the report has been awaited. He's doing a very good job. Talking about withdrawal and stepping down.
In the event that you have to, what will make you step aside?
As far as our party is concerned, we have, I think when we had our screening, we had our discussion and everything. There was no such discussion as anyone stepping down or stepping aside or anything like that.
I asked that because during the contest, during primaries, we've seen it in this country several times over, where people step aside for whom they feel is their leader. Okay, let him carry on. It's the same party. Let's work together.
You're referring to institution of consensus, right?
So
and that is a lot of people.
In the event that is not consensus, what else could cause you to throw in the towel and decide that okay,
why?
Carry on?
1 minute. Why would you ask someone that came out prepared?
This is politics. Anything is possible. You know that.
I don't think.
Anyways,
anybody that comes out for the position of the president is joking.
All right.
So I think when you talk about people withdrawing, I would rather say, let the president withdraw for me.
Oh.
Let the president step down for me.
Beautiful.
Yes.
It will be an interesting, contest to see.
That's what I would rather say. If I supported before, let him support me now.
Why did you decamp from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, anyway? Was it because you didn't get the ticket to run for president back then?
No, there were internal issues that necessitated my departure from the party.
And why not another party? Why the APC?
I think at that point in time, APC was the best party and remains the best right now.
Your primaries are inching much closer by every tick of the clock. As the day approaches, what is going through your mind, finally, before we wrap it up tonight?
What goes through my mind is for us to, number one, Nigeria. It gives me a lot of concern when things are not going the way we plan or the way we want it. So that's number one. The future of any election should be determined by how Nigeria turns out to be in the future. I mean, when I say future, I mean tomorrow. Okay. I mean next tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. That is my primary concern about whatever is going to happen right now. Stanley
Osifo, APC's presidential aspirant. Many thanks indeed for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am looking forward to seeing you right after the primaries.
Thank you so much. I'll be willing to see you too.
Thank you very much indeed. That's our show for today. Don't forget, you can follow us on all social media handles. You can also find me on all social media handles. I'll be waiting right here, of course, to respond to your questions, suggestions. We'll continue the conversation there. I'll see you again tomorrow. I am Enemaku Ojochegbe. Bye for now.
News now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, AIT_live, and AIT Livestream 1 on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live. The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our government seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it was for that reason in our politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
Nigerian filmmaker Paul Cast is putting the finishing touches to his latest movie, Just the Two of Us. The project is due for release in April, and Cast says he's hoping it will hit big.
The storyline was mainly around a couple and how they were able to go through their journeys and go through lots of highs and lows, mainly trying to typify the kind of struggle that could come in when people are in relationships.
A former psychology student, Cast launched his movie career in 2019. In terms of output, Nigeria's film industry, or Nollywood, is the second largest in the world, behind India's Bollywood, producing over 1,000 movies annually. In December, the Nigerian movie A Tribe Called Judah became the first movie to earn 1 billion naira, equivalent to about $1.1 million at the domestic box office. Tribe Called Judah cast member Olumide Oworu says the movie about a single mother and her 5 sons struggling to make ends meet is a common Nigerian story.
I think everybody that saw the movie just saw a bit of themselves in terms of just wanting to do whatever it takes for your mom to be happy and comfortable.
Cast says the success of the movie Lionheart, directed by Genevieve Inaji, which became the first Nigerian film to stream on Netflix in 2019, also inspired filmmakers.
We actually didn't have avenues of distribution like that, but ever since Genevieve came up and did Lionheart, and it just opened up, the door to Netflix and other streaming platforms. It just made people see possibilities.
But filmmakers say access to funding is still a challenge and want Nigerian government and financial institutions to invest more in the movie industry.
There's been improvements in
the cinematics, the cinematography, the lighting. So there are more opportunities, sound design, as opposed to before when it was just, get a camera, you have a story, you point and you shoot.
And the result and the growing market is good news for filmmakers like Paul Cast and millions of Nigerians who are waiting to see the next big film on their screens. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
At Chabindo camp outside Goma, Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF, has set up tents where dozens of displaced persons are being processed. They can also participate in listening sessions with psychologists. Rose has been receiving care for depression. She blames the war for her mental state, but says her journey to recovery has begun.
When someone flees war, they are very disturbed, and that was my case too. But here we have been taught how to forget everything we've left behind and how to calm our thoughts.
Rose is not alone. According to MSF, living in camps around Goma is a challenging environment for the hundreds of thousands of displaced people, especially women. Every day, medical staff say about 70 female survivors of sexual assault visit the 6 MSF health facilities in camps near Goma. Faustin Hakizimana is the head of Bulengo camp. He says the need for psychosocial support is more urgent than ever.
When we looked into the real problem, we found out that many have been disturbed by the horrors of war and others have been raped when they look for wood in the forests, which is why so many women here suffer of mental illness.
Gerlas Mulekia, a clinical psychologist with Médecins Sans Frontières at the Lushagala camp, says more help is needed.
Most of the people we see show signs of anxiety and post-traumatic problems. We run 3 group sessions a day, and each group is made up of 10 people, for a total of 30 people a day. If it goes on like this, we'll need to expand the activities to try and meet as many of the needs as possible.
Psychosocial care is available to both genders, but officials say most of the people taking advantage of the services are women whose mental health challenges are impacting their ability to care for their children. Zanem Netizaidi, VOA News, Goma.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_.
The 2027 election gathers momentum as Atiku submits ADC nomination form. Makinde declares former Governor Mimiko joins APC. And Nigerian teachers threaten strike over policy decision exempting national certificate of education holders from sitting unified tertiary matriculation examination. Nigeria unveils national cotton, textile and garment industrial transformation program. And in Business Accountant General of the Federation tax stakeholders on reforms and public service payroll. And in sports, visa uncertainty threatens Iran's World Cup plans amid U.S.-Iran tension. This is a news hour on AIT. I am Adora Sidney Jack, and with me would be Enemaku Jechebe. Welcome.
Thanks for staying with us. We'll begin on this note. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has officially submitted his expression of interest and nomination forms to contest the 2027 presidential election. The seasoned politician is seeking the ticket on the platform of the African Democratic Congress, ADC. The move drew massive crowds of loyalists to the party's national headquarters, signaling his formal entry into the race.
A large crowd of supporters and party faithful packed the venue, sparking rowdy scenes as Atiku arrived to submit his documents. This submission follows his recent 90 million naira nomination fee payment to the ADC. Atiku is seen as a major force in Nigerian politics, retaining a strong multi-regional support base across his previous presidential runs. His former entry into the ADC primary race is expected to expand the political base for the 2027 presidential election. Oge Ihimekme, AIT News, Abuja.
Now, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State on Thursday formally declared his intention to contest the 2027 presidential election, saying Nigeria requires an urgent reset in the face of worsening insecurity, economic hardship, and rising political tension. Makinde made the declaration at a unity mega rally held at Mapo Hall, Ibadan, organized to formalize a political alliance between the People's Democratic Party and the Allied People's Movement, APM. The governor described the alliance as the beginning of a broader opposition coalition ahead of the 2027 general elections, warning that Nigeria risks drifting into a one-party state if opposition parties fail to unite. Addressing party faithful, supporters and political stakeholders at the rally, Makinde said the nation's democratic structure was under threat. He lamented that the economic and security challenges confronting Nigerians, saying many citizens had been forced into survival mode. Earlier in the day, leaders of both parties signed a memorandum of understanding at the PDP Secretariat at Dagonodo House, Ibadan, formally sealing the alliance ahead of the 2027 elections. Now, leaders of the APM, including the party's national chairman, Dr. Yusuf Naman Dantale, and National Secretary Ayodele Oyade, also called for urgent political reforms, citing insecurity, economic hardship, and the growing difficulty faced by Nigerians in accessing quality education and healthcare services.
The alliance of People's Democratic Party and the Allied People's Movement. This handshake will allow us field candidates at all levels. We will field candidates from top to bottom. We will field candidates from presidency to state assembly and everything in between. For today, I, Oluseyi Makinde, FNSC, announce my candidacy for the position of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Beginning to make history by starting a new journey across the Nigerian political terrain. Nigeria, as the most populous and the largest democracy in Africa, is being witnessed.
Moving on now, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has dismissed reports of an alleged alliance between the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the Allied People's Movement, APM, describing the claim as political 419. Wike was speaking with journalists during an inspection of ongoing road projects in Gomani, Yangoje, in the Kwali Area Council of Abuja, and accused the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, of misleading Nigerians with claims of a PDP-APM alliance ahead of the 2027 elections.
After inspecting the Gomani Yangoji Road project on Thursday, the minister responded to rumors of a possible alliance between the PDP and the APM, allegedly led by Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed.
When I said people are fraudulent, they thought I was joking. And that's the 419 we're talking about. Luckily, the PDP had issued a press conference. There's no alliance between PDP and Allied People's Movement or any other political party, as the case may be. Please tell Nigerians that there's nothing called PDP-APM alliance. What you have is Seyi Makinde joining APM to be able to actualize his presidential ambition, which is dead on arrival.
When asked about remarks made by his successor, Sim Fubara, to the effect that he remains in the APC, the minister maintained that he would not interfere in the affairs of the APC, as he is not a member of the party.
Like I told you before, he has never told me whether he has a problem with the APC. As me, he has. It's the internal affairs. Like I do have my own small problems with the PDP. I try to resolve the problem. So I don't have to go and drink another person's Panadol.
The minister further explained that the Gomani Yangoji Road project, scheduled for completion ahead of the President's third anniversary in office, aligns with the President's directive to extend development beyond the city center to surrounding satellite communities. Chukwebuka Obodo, AIT News, Abuja.
Now, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, says it has petitioned security agencies, including the police and the Department of State Services, DSS, over what it describes as alleged impersonation by some persons involved in the formation of a purported interim national working committee of the party. The National Secretary of the party, Senator Samuel Anyang, will disclose this while responding to questions during a briefing at the PDP National Secretariat, Abuja. Now, Anyang says those to be invited by security agencies include former chairman of the Board of Trustees, BOT Senator Adolfo Swabara, Kabiru Turaki, and other members linked to what it describes as controversial meeting held at the Shehu Yaradua Center in Abuja, where the interim PDP NWC was announced and constituted. The PDP leadership also dismissed claims of confusion surrounding the certified true copy CTC of the recent Supreme Court judgment relating to the party's leadership tussle, insisting that the Apex Court's decision was clear and unambiguous.
We wish to reiterate that the PDP have absolutely nothing to do with the gathering in Ibadan. On the contrary, the PDP is today conducting a screening exercise for gubernatorial and presidential aspirants at Legacy House, Maitama, Abuja, the annex office of our national headquarters. We therefore urge Nigerians and members of the public to disregard the propaganda, theatrics, and misleading narratives surrounding today's event in Ibadan.
There's only one PDP today. INEC has been here, has verified the current NWC. Today you are here having our press conference. Where are they? Where are they coming from? Where are they situated? Where is their address? It's a simple question. Please try and as much as possible to correct this impression.
I maintain that the only recognized PDP leadership is the one led by Abdurrahman Mohammed, stressing that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, had already verified the current NWC. The party also distanced itself from a purported alliance involving the Allied People's Movement, APM, and the gathering held in Ibadan, Oyo State, accusing Governor Seyi Makinde of deception, saying that the party is not in any agreement or arrangement with the APM or any other political group.
Former Governor of Ondo State, Olusegun Mimiko, has officially joined the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, in Ondo West local government area of the state. Mimiko was received into the APC at Ward 7 Ondo West local government secretariat by party leaders, executives, and supporters across the state. Mimiko, who recently resigned from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, had remained largely inactive in the opposition, despite many of his loyalists defecting to the APC before the last governorship election in the state. Addressing party faithful during the events, the former governor said the achievements of President Tinubu informed his decision to join the APC. Chairman of the party in the state, Babatunde Kolawole, described Mimiko's defection as a major political gain, adding that his entrance into the APC will further strengthen the party's grassroots structure and unity.
I will align whatever God has given me with all stakeholders to ensure that we put forward this program for the development of our people. In our lifetime, our people, Nigeria, will progress. For any, I don't have any doubt in my mind that things are still very difficult for the masses of this land, of this country. So welcoming him today to the fold of the All Progressive Congress, for us, is an homecoming.
Mimiko's defection marks the end of years of political alignment outside the ruling party in Ondo State.
Now, political parties, political leaders in the Asari, Toru and Akoko Toru local government areas of River State have reaffirmed their commitment to the Rainbow Coalition led by FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. And the stakeholders gave the assurance during the formal inauguration of the Renewed Hope Ambassadors, ROHA ward coordinators across both LGAs.
The various activities commenced with the official commissioning of the Renewed Hope Ambassador Secretariat in Buguma, the administrative headquarters of Asari Toru local government area. Speaking at the event, leaders took turns to pay glowing tribute to FCT Minister Nyesom Wike for his role in unifying various political affiliations into a formidable coalition.
Our leader is the one that put this Rainbow Coalition, and what you represent is the voice of our father and our leader, Nyesom Wike. Our Papa Wike said it must be Tinubu.
Tell our leader, the master of River State politics, Nyesom Wike, that Asari Toru is intact for our president.
State coordinator of the Renewed Hope Ambassadors, Ambassador Desmond Akawo, emphasized that President Tinubu's policy on fuel subsidy removal has already begun fast-tracking development across all tiers of government.
A man who has come to redeem this country and renew the hope of Nigerians. Mr. President came into office prepared and said subsidy is gone. The governors, the local government chairman will tell you that whatever that is the savings are now transferred to those tiers of government. The chairmen are able to do something. There is nothing called zero allocation anymore. I was happy to hear that NDDC is actually doing some job within this area. We are grateful to Mr. President, and you have shown it this morning.
The team later moved to Abonima, the headquarters of Akoko Toru local government area, where they commissioned another ROHA secretariat and inaugurated its ward coordinators. Leaders in Akulga expressed their readiness to deliver the president's mandate.
We have field marshals, and then the only thing we wait for is the command. We are showing you that you should go home and sleep with your two eyes closed.
Ambassador Desmond Akawo applauded the politicians for maintaining a united front, urging them to remain steadfast in their support for President Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda.
Mr. President, for us in River State, we have said he has done well, and by that singular act, appointing our leader as the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Mr. President has done well.
Abajo Osekwe, AIT News, Abonima.
The LIVEE Abejide Foundation has expanded its 710 million naira disbursement tour across Yagba Federal Constituency. During a town hall meeting in Kogi State, the founder and lawmaker representing Yagba Federal Constituency emphasized that the massive empowerment program is entirely self-funded from his personal wealth and not government allocations.
The LIVEE Abejide Foundation is on the fourth phase of its 710 million naira rural project disbursement. The funding forms part of a larger 5 billion naira 4-year legacy initiative across Kogi's Yagba Federal Constituency. The team first arrived in Itakete Ide, a historic 107-year-old farming community in the Mopamuro local government area. Representatives from 7 local settlements gathered to receive 10 million naira checks. The funds were delivered directly by the initiative's founder and Yagba Federal representative LIVEE Abejide. During the visit, Abejide also pledged Ayedemuro to Itakete Ide Road to improve market access.
Remember Mopamuro. We are not contesting against you, or we know them. We are with you. We are for you. We are backing you. 71 communities. 10 million. But I can't even millions.
Support to do for you 2-kilometer drainage to both sides. And then 1 kilometer asphalt that pass through the community. So this I will do for you, and then I will come and commission myself.
The tour continued through Mopamuro, where 5 additional communities each secured 10 million naira development grants. In Isolu, another 9 communities, including Ido-Jesha, Iye, Ijowa, and Ilotin, received the funding allocations. Abejide clarified that these massive constituency projects are funded entirely from his private business earnings, not public offers. He revealed that his private income exceeded 100 million naira monthly prior to his election, vastly outpouring his official legislative salary.
I can decide not to hold my money. Nobody can talk to me because it is not government money. It is not easy to even give 10 million out, not to talk of when you are giving 0.7 billion. Is it easy? I hope needs that you can use the money for.
Over 50 communities have benefited from this direct disbursements program, which concludes on Saturday. Funke Ogunolu, AIT News, Mopamuro.
From there, we'll go to the story on the Nigerian Union of Teachers threatening nationwide strike following disagreements with the government over a policy decision exempting prospective students in National Certificate of Education from sitting the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. The Teachers Union is asking the federal government to abolish the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, except it reverses itself and even makes minimum entry score into colleges of education at par with other professional programs. At a briefing at the end of his emergency National Executive Council meeting, NUT President Titus Amber argued that the Minister of Education is only trying to hide behind this policy government's failure in upholding the teaching profession as it has been done for doctors, lawyers, among others. Now, Amber, who also is the Deputy President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, said the waiver, if allowed to stand, will help end the already pitiable state of the Nigerian teachers' flight.
Let me tell you that begin to battle, tight your belt, there will be national strike. So if today government observe by statistics or by data, and they observe that enrollment is poor in our colleges of education, should waiver of JAMB be a solution?
The teachers' union also said it is shameful that out of about 10 incentives approved for teachers in 2020, only the one on retirement age extension has been partially implemented.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Thanks for staying with us. Chinese President Xi Jinping and visiting Donald Trump have said ties between their countries remain strong despite disagreements on certain issues. These was at talks held in Beijing a day after Trump arrived for a state visit, his second in 9 years.
We had extremely positive and productive conversations.
2 hours of talks at which President Trump described the discussions as extremely positive and praised Xi's leadership. According to the White House statement released later, the talks covered trade, oil, and Iran, but significant differences remain on tariffs and export controls, it added.
With the Chinese delegation earlier, and this evening is another cherished opportunity to discuss among friends some of the things that we discussed today, all good for the United States and for China, and it was a great honor to be with you. Please.
Xi had warned of the risk of conflicts with the U.S. over Taiwan, the self-governed island claimed by Beijing. It remains a central source of tension alongside trade disputes, technology competition, and the war involving Iran. Iran had largely blocked shipping there since its conflicts with the U.S. and Israel began on the 28th of February 2026. The talks were deemed constructive and included discussions on opening Chinese markets to U.S. firms, a key objective for Trump.
You're still watching the news hour on AIT. Business News is next.
You make choices every day. Your essential routine shouldn't be one of them. Start with Nivea Men Deep Body Lotion with Max Tech, powered by Black Carbon, that gives you 48 hours moisture. Then, lock in that powerful dark wood scent with Nivea Men Deep Roll-On with Max Tech that gives you 72 hours sweat and odor protection. Skin is for playing it smart. Nivea is for skin. Nivea Men, proud sponsors of Real Madrid.
Calm down. Calm down? What if I ruin everything? Auntie Amina is coming. Just pass the beef and dawa cubes. No awesome. With Mr. Chef, it's a 2-finger crush. This is a true taste of home
and culture.
Chef of life.
Welcome to Business Report. I am Amaka Okoro. We'll begin with a report on Nigeria's textile and garment industry. Nigeria's textile and garment industry is receiving renewed attention as the federal government moves to reposition the sector as a major driver of industrial growth, job creation, and economic diversification. This follows the unveiling of the National Cotton Textile and Garment Industrial Transformation Program, Phase 1 Value Chain Activation Pilot Report, aimed at revitalizing the sector and strengthening local production capacity.
Nigeria's cotton, textile, and garment industry was once a major driver of industrial growth and employment, with thriving textile hubs. But over the years, the sector declined significantly,
with Nigeria now spending about $6 billion annually on textile imports. In a renewed effort to revive the industry, the National Cotton, Textile and Garment Industrial Transformation Program Phase 1 Value Chain Activation Pilot Report has now revealed that Nigeria has the potential to rebuild the entire value chain. The Minister of State for Industry, John Owan Eno, said the federal government remains committed to introducing a comprehensive policy framework to strengthen the industry before the second half of the year.
We got a lot of international players who will not just come without having a policy that is going to govern this sector. So government is going to deliver that. And I can assure you that between June and July, we're going to not just validate a new strategic policy, we're going to unveil it. Within 6-7 months, you can plant cotton, you can get a garment out of it. Right? We have dealt with about 3 different participants, one in cotton, one in textile, one in garment. Going forward, we're going to scale up.
It's a game changer, but talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. In next 3 to 6 months, let's see where we are. We all can come back here and sort of measure the success from the pilot.
Stakeholders explained that the pilot phase, which involved 3 participants, was designed as a diagnostic exercise to identify strengths and gaps within the value chain.
We work with the Brazilian community to get good quality seed. We want more support. We want support for irrigation, full mechanization.
They added that findings from the report would serve as a roadmap for the next phase of the program, aimed at bringing more manufacturers and stakeholders into structured collaboration to strengthen the cotton, textile, and garment ecosystem. Olamide Ariyo, AIT News, Abuja.
The federal government says it is reviewing the implementation of the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPPIS, to improve transparency, efficiency, and accountability in public payroll administration. Speaking at a stakeholders retreat in Abuja, the Accountant General of the Federation, Dr. Shamsuddin Ogunjimi, said the review is aimed at addressing operational challenges and strengthening payroll management across the federal civil service.
Acknowledging the progress made so far, we are also mindful of the challenges encountered in the implementation of the platforms, particularly those arising from knowledge gaps among users. I wish to assure you that this retreat is structured to address these gaps and will serve as a turning point towards a more seamless and effective implementation of IPPIS for improved service delivery.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Taiwo Oyedele, said IPPIS has helped reduce payroll leakages, while the head of the Civil Service of the Federation stressed the need for accurate personnel data.
Without credible human resource records, no payroll system can be credible. If records are inaccurate, payments will be affected. If onboarding is not properly captured, new entrants may experience delays. If offboarding is not promptly reflected, the government may be exposed to avoidable financial losses.
Stakeholders are expected to produce practical recommendations at the end of the retreat aimed at strengthening the IPPIS operations and supporting the federal government's push for a transparent and efficient public service payroll system. And now to the stock market. The Nigerian exchange market recorded its first negative trading session for the week after 3 consecutive positive outings. The all-share index depreciated by 0.08%, closing at 252,043.11 basis points. The volume traded is 1.039 billion, as its market value is 41.6 billion naira. The market capitalization now stands at 161 trillion naira. On the decliners list, we have Zichis. Zichis declined by 9.99% to close at 32 naira 69 kobo, followed by FTN Cocoa which declined by 9.87% to close at 9 naira 95 kobo. Maya follows with 9.83% depreciation to close at 21 naira 55 kobo. On the gainers list, we have Land Africa. Land Africa appreciated by 10% to close at 9 naira 90 kobo. Fitting follows with 9.97% to close at 124 naira 60 kobo. Austin Lars is also in this group and it gained 9.95% to close at 4 naira 9 kobo, among others. The top active traders for the day are Champs, VFD Group, and First Holdco. In the oil market, prices depreciated for West Texas Intermediate and Brent crude as they both traded in the red owing to the refusal for Iran to allow some vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And that's Business Report. I am Amaka Okoro. The news hour continues.
It's amazing how your child grows up before your eyes. Enable their thriving development with the new NanKid 4 with HMOs to support your child's development, probiotics and high-quality proteins. And all of these work together to support your child's development and growth today and tomorrow. NanKid 4, nourish your child's potential.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Y.D. Shuaibu, Nigerian Army Medal, on behalf of the officers and soldiers of the Nigerian Army, announces the commencement of the first Chief of Army Staff Biannual Conference 2026. Date 17th to 21st May 2026. Venue Nigerian Army Conference Center and Suites, Asokoro, Abuja. Time 8 a.m. daily. Nigerian Army, pride of the nation. Colonel Apollonia Anele, Acting Director, Army Public Relations. Announcer.
Godrich Air Pocket? Wow!
With Power Gel technology, keeps the bathroom fresh for up to 30 days. Godrich Air Pocket. Bye-bye bad smell, hello sweet fragrance.
Now you're welcome back. Now, wife of Nigeria's President Oluremi Tinubu has reaffirmed her commitment to improving the living conditions of Nigerians, particularly vulnerable groups across the country. Senator Tinubu, who made the pledge at an outreach program aimed at supporting 1,800 families, directly assured that no effort would be spared in advancing initiatives that bring hope, relief, and empowerment to the people.
Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, has extended humanitarian support to more vulnerable Nigerians. This time around, 1,800 vulnerable families in Rivers State have been given support through a food outreach program under her Renewed Hope initiative. The gesture is aimed at reducing the effects of the current economic challenges and improving the welfare of less privileged Nigerians.
We have successfully distributed food items to 25 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, making Rivers State the 26th beneficiary.
The event that attracted the wives of 12 governors and their host, Valerie Fubara, saw the distribution of bags of rice, vegetable oil, and other essential food items, alongside cash support to indigent families, widows, the elderly, and other vulnerable residents.
Today's outreach program is another practical demonstration of compassionate leadership and people-centered governance. Beyond the distribution of food items, this program represents hope, care, dignity, and support for vulnerable households across Rivers State.
Beneficiaries expressed gratitude to the wife of the president for the timely intervention, describing the support as a relief amid rising living costs. Dagbo Obiakene, AIT News, Port Harcourt.
The Cross River State government has reaffirmed its commitment to improving the welfare of nurses and other health workers in the state as part of efforts to strengthen healthcare delivery. Speaking through the State's Commissioner for Health, Henry Ayuk, at the 2026 International Nurses Day celebration, the governor announced plans to extend the retirement age of nurses and recruit more medical personnel in the civil service.
The event, which brought together nurses, healthcare professionals, and government officials, was marked with tributes to the contribution of nurses to the healthcare sector and renewed calls for improved welfare for healthcare workers. Representing Governor Basio II, the State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Henry Ayuk, said the state government is already working with the Office of the Head of Service to implement a new retirement package that would allow nurses and other healthcare workers to remain in service for an additional 5 years.
We need more doctors to come in. We are reviewing our situation with the status of nurses, the number we have, and so forth, and we are open to bring more nurses into our civil service.
Also speaking, the Special Assistant to the State Governor on Nursing, Koko Basiesu, described nurses as the backbone of the healthcare system.
It is through sustained investment in training, staffing, equipment, and welfare that we strengthen this critical workforce. When nurses are empowered with the right resources and support, our health system becomes stronger.
This year's International Nurses Day celebration themed Our Nurses, Our Future, Empowered Nurses Save Lives, ended with renewed calls for improved welfare, better working conditions, and sustained investment in the nursing profession as stakeholders stress the critical role of nurses in strengthening healthcare delivery across the state. In Emersat Ifiok, AIT News, Calabar.
As farmers across Zamfara prepare for the rainy season, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, has uncovered an alleged fertilizer adulteration syndicate accused of endangering agricultural production and exploiting struggling farmers. Now, the Zamfara State Command paraded a suspect allegedly involved in the manufacturing, blending, sale, and distribution of adulterated fertilizer packaged in counterfeit branded bags.
Loaded inside the truck are bags of suspected adulterated fertilizer, allegedly prepared for distribution to unsuspecting farmers ahead of the planting season. Authorities says the illegal activities could have caused major losses for farmers, reducing crop yields and already battling shape.
Undermine.
He warned that the command will double its effort to identify and smash syndicates involved in illegal activity and related crimes.
This is a truck apprehended with 550 bags of Aluma Nagari fertilizer impersonated. It is adulterated and it doesn't meet their initial requirement or the normal standard.
According to the command public relations officer, the suspect Mustafa Sani will be handed over for judicial arraignment. Damina Yusuf, AIT News, Gusau.
Delta State Governor Sharif Oborevori has charged newly sworn-in permanent secretaries in the state civil service to uphold professionalism, integrity, and accountability in the discharge of their duties. Speaking during the swearing-in ceremony held at the Unity Hall in Government House, Asaba, the governor said the appointments were made to fill existing vacancies in the service and were based strictly on merit, seniority, professionalism, and records of service in their respective ministries. The governor stated that the newly appointed permanent secretaries were selected from a pool of competent candidates, noting that every local government area in Delta State now has a permanent secretary in the state's civil service.
The appointment became necessary to fill vacancies created by the retirement of permanent secretaries from some local government areas. The selection of these officers from a pool of equally competent and capable hands was therefore based on vacancies in the respective local government areas. seniority, and merit.
He, however, cautioned them against seeing the appointments, as a point of arrival, stressing that the new responsibilities demand greater accountability, leadership, and commitment to service delivery.
You must embrace the principle of continuous improvement and redouble your efforts to excel in the qualities that qualified you for these appointments. Qualities such as discipline, integrity.
We urged them to work closely with commissioners by providing sound advice, institutional support, and guidance to ensure smooth administration and effective implementation of government's programs.
Now to some foreign stories. Now, Russia and Ukraine launched large-scale drone attacks against each other on Wednesday, with both sides reporting hundreds of incoming drones and claiming to have shut down the majority.
The assault began in the early hours of Thursday and lasted several hours, with air raid sirens sounding across Kyiv as residents sought shelter in metro stations. The Ukrainian Air Force said 675 attack drones and 56 missiles were launched, primarily targeting the capital, and reported intercepting 652 drones and 51 missiles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that more than 20 locations in Kyiv were damaged, including residential buildings, a school, a veterinary clinic, and other civilian infrastructure. Emergency services and rescue workers walked through debris at a collapsed residential building, retrieving those wounded and killed. Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko reported that 40 people were wounded, including 2 children. Ukrainian emergency services confirmed 3 fatalities. Authorities said the attack targeted multiple districts and caused fires and structural damage across the city. Officials described the strike as one of the most extensive on Kyiv in recent months and called on international partners to respond to the escalation.
EU ambassadors met in Brussels on Wednesday to coordinate a cross-border response after a hantavirus outbreak aboard a polar expedition cruise ship raised concerns about public health preparedness.
The meeting focused on strengthening epidemic response mechanisms within the Schengen area. Officials discussed ways to improve timely sharing of case information and adopt unified prevention and control standards to limit the risk of cross-border transmission. EU officials described the outbreak as a wake-up call, highlighting ongoing vulnerabilities in the bloc's public health system. They stressed that health threats can spread quickly across borders and called for closer coordination to close gaps created by inconsistent national measures. The outbreak occurred on the MV Honduras, which departed Argentina on April 1, with more than 140 passengers and crew from 23 countries. According to the World Health Organization, 11 hantavirus cases have been reported globally in connection with the incident, including 3 deaths. 9 cases have been confirmed as Andes virus infections, a strain capable of person-to-person transmission. By Sunday, 94 passengers from 19 countries had been evacuated through a coordinated operation involving Spain, the WHO, and other countries. The final evacuation flight departed Monday. Quarantine measures have varied across EU states, with Spain isolating nationals in a military hospital and other countries asking passengers to self-isolate at home. 2 passengers have developed symptoms during quarantine and are receiving treatment in France and Spain. The European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control is investigating the transmission route. Preliminary findings suggest the first case may have contracted the virus in Argentina before boarding and later spread it on board. Health experts say there is no evidence of a new virus or strain and that the overall risk to the public remains low.
You're still watching the news hour on AIT. Sport Track is next.
Thanks for staying with us. I am Omofoma Ibari. With barely a month to the opening ceremony of the novel 48 teams FIFA World Cup fresh on Saturday, now surround Iran's participation in the 2026 FIFA World Cup amid ongoing diplomatic tensions between the United States of America and Iran. Development follows earlier comments by U.S. President Donald Trump, who maintained a hardline stance on Iran during renewed tensions between both countries, raising concerns over travel restrictions and visa approvals ahead of the tournament to be co-hosted by United States, Canada, and Mexico. Iran Football Federation President Mehdi Taj says players, coaches, and officials are still awaiting to receive visas despite ongoing engagement with FIFA. Taj says the federation is demanding guarantees from World Football Governing Body FIFA to ensure the Iranian delegation can enter the United States without restrictions. The concerns intensified after Iranian football officials, including Taj, reportedly faced immigration issues during FIFA's annual Congress in Vancouver, Canada. Despite the diplomatic standoff, FIFA's president, Gianni Infantino, has assured that Iran will participate in the World Cup. Iran are scheduled to face New Zealand, Belgium, and Egypt during the group stage of the competition, which begins on June 11, 2026. The president of the Nigeria Football Federation, Ibrahim Musa Gusau, has described President Bola Tinubu's passion and commitment to sports development as unprecedented. Gusau made the remark while reacting to the federal government's approval for Nigerians to host the 48th General Assembly of the Confederation of African Football, CAF, as well as the CAF Awards ceremony.
Because these are events that took place in Nigeria more than a decade ago. So therefore, and he's always happy to see that he makes Nigerians happy. Everything that will make Nigeria to take its rightful position in the continent, he's always ready to do it. So we're very much sure that it's only for us to have the opportunity for the CAF president to see him and then present this proposal to him. And definitely, the moment the CAF president said, he just shook his hand and he was excited and happy to say that, yes, we are ready, you can come, and we are ready for you, and we have what it takes to host this event. So you are welcome.
NFL president also said Nigeria is gradually regaining its status as a viable destination for major continental football events. According to him, the country is now in a strong position to begin bidding for the hosting rights of top African tournaments, stressing that the economic and developmental benefits of staging such competitions are enormous.
I assured him that under his watch, he will surely make sure that the national stadium will be put to normal, to even the expectation that people don't expect, as well as our national stadium here at the MK Abiola Stadium. And he also mentioned, just to tell you that he's following up to what is going on as far as what is concerned. He also mentioned there that he's also aware there are some governors that are highly committed in trying to see that they fix back the sporting infrastructures they have in their states. And he also talk to them more so that at the end of the day we can get the required facilities that we need to host any kind of tournament that will be knocking to our door.
The Badminton Federation of Nigeria says it is intensifying efforts to develop the sport from grassroots, with the school identified as the foundation for talent discovery and growth. The resolution was reached at the end of a two-day retreat and board meeting held in Abuja. President of the Federation, Francis Obi, says the initiative is aimed at creating a sustainable development structure that will address funding challenges, players' welfare, and mass participation at the grassroots level, while also establishing a pathway for nurturing young talents.
For example, in the technical department, we look at the baseline. What do we have now? And when we did the analysis, we were not, yes, from where we were to where we are, it was like progress, but we were not satisfied. I mean, we had about 15 coaches trained with BWS certificate from 200 and something million people population, no. And then we go to other countries in Africa like Egypt. You see coaches, 20-something, 30-something coaches trained. So we want to reach that gap. It's too much. So, for example, we have set targets. For schools, how many teachers do we want to train in shorter time program? How many students in schools do we want to reach at the end of this program? So we had those figures.
Implementation of its programs, the Federation had set up 11 committees to oversee various aspects of development and administration.
We are looking at the database of the players, the number of coaches, their grades. We are also looking at the officiating officials. All these three is in the circle. You cannot develop the players without sound coaches. And of course, we need a very effective and efficient technical officials. That's the umpire. So this board are trying to take it from where we left it. We want to see that during this last board, we were able to have 15 level 1 coaches graded by BWF and BCA. We are looking beyond that.
The English Football League says the championship playoff final scheduled for May 23 could face postponement as investigations continue into the Spygate controversy involving Southampton. Southampton have been charged with allegedly observing Middlesbrough training section before their playoff semi-final clash last weekend. An independent disciplinary commission is expected to hear the case on or before May 19. Despite the investigation, the EFL says preparations are still ongoing for the final between Southampton and Hull City at the Wembley Stadium. However, officials have warned supporters that contingency plans are being considered should the fixture require rescheduling following the disciplinary process or any possible appeal. That's Sports Track Other News Hour. Thanks for watching. I am Omofoma Ibari.
Thanks a lot, Omofoma. Let's bring you more stories now. The governor of Nasarawa State has urged the Nigerian government to tackle corruption if Nigeria intends to grow its infrastructure. The governor made the call at a two-day 2026 infrastructure dialogue held in Abuja.
Governor Sule blamed lack of transparency as the bane of infrastructure development in Nigeria.
So there is money. So what is lacking generally is you need to put the structures together on how to assess that money. Because an investor is not looking for money from there, he's looking for an infrastructure. This infrastructure will be in roads, will be power, access to the market, will be water, will be security that they need. But you know, the biggest of them all that they need at the end of the day is the buying in of the community there and the access to the market and return on investment.
A managing partner, Dutch Partners Holding, Onoha Nachi, said there is the need to unlock infrastructure financing and economic development in Nigeria.
There has to be a deliberate way of legislating continuity for critical projects. Once a project passes Federal Executive Council and National Assembly approval, it should be binding across governments. Some countries like South Africa, Africa's Independent Power Producer Program works because it is law, not policy.
What we do is, how can we unlock finance to develop Nigeria? We don't have any other country. This is our country, and we must do everything to change the narrative.
2026 Infrastructure Dialogue has the theme, Building Nigerians' Future, the strategic role of development financing and economic development. Dimas Nanzung, AIT News, Abuja.
That's the news hour on AIT. I am Enemaku Ojochigbe.
And I am Adora Senijak. Thank you for joining us this day.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, AIT_live, and AIT Livestream 1 on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live. The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy. And our government seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go. Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, AIT_live, and AIT Livestream 1 on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.